Now, for many of us in Black families, I'm sure to you viewers at home, the concept of Black tax is all too familiar. This burden of financial responsibility, which typically falls on breadwinners, has become an ingrained part of many Black cultures that has made it impossible for many to save for retirement or even just advance financially. But what is Black tax? And here to expand on that is financial accounting professional Charlotte Cindi, who is joining us this morning to break it down, make it make sense, and hopefully give us a way of how we move forward. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us.
Morning, Khosi. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
I'm good as well.
Thank you for your time and helping us navigate this topic that somehow feels so, common, but so confusing. Let's start right at the start. What is Black tax?
I think Black tax has a lot of negative connotations, but Black tax basically is the financial burden that most Black people have towards their families, or financial responsibility that is. That is, in most cases, people don't want to say it, but it's actually voluntary. So tax is usually involuntary, and there can be a debate there if it's voluntary or not, but Black tax, the term itself, was devised because it felt like it was involuntary. You had no other option but to contribute to support your family and so forth. And it's been carried down so many generations that it's from back then and then now.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm so glad that you're speaking about it being voluntary or involuntary. There's some people that still feel like, I want to provide to my family and my siblings and extended family. But sometimes I feel like I'm supposed to, there's this weight of you have to, but you're not sending a cent home. How do I draw the line between the two?
The most important thing, I think, is the conversation, an honest financial conversation you have with yourself before you have with your family. Can I afford it? Is it possible and feasible for me to still help my family and still be able to manage my life? Because, the cost of living is quite expensive now.
Yeah.
But in some instances, people don't actually have the option. I have to. I'm the only person that works at home. They're dependent on me to eat. So in those instances, it's kind of involuntary. And you live with these people. It's not like you can buy your own groceries and let them, suffer.
Yeah.
But now these people or your family members, your siblings are not necessarily your responsibility. But because you have a social responsibility and it's family, man, it touches on your heart. You then feel obligated to kind of contribute and assist the family. So the first thing that we need to do is, if possible, we need to be able to establish, am I able to afford it? When you obviously have the privilege to do so. Am I able to afford it? Is this a monthly expense that I'm incurring? Is this a once in a while expense that I'm incurring? Determine that for yourself. Determine if your salary or your income can be able to suffice even after you contribute Black tax, and then have the conversation with your family members to say, hey, this is how far I can meet you. This is what I can contribute. Because I think a lot of the time it feels like a burden because we're not speaking up against it. We're not having the necessary financial conversations as Black families to say, I am struggling financially like everybody else in the country that is right now. So I'm unable to meet you guys here. So can you please meet me halfway? So then we become resentful about it. And that's why it then has all these negative connotations because people don't have the conversation.
What about those family members that expect it? Because now we're speaking about it from a person who's involved in giving Black tax. But also, I mean, there's family members that have, it's like, there's an expectation. What do you say to those family members and how they navigate Black tax?
With those families where it's an expectation, I always say people will never expect from you when they're able to do. So in most cases where it's an expectation, there's a lack of. And therefore, in those instances, sometimes you're the only person that has the funds to educate your brother, and your brother's expectant, obviously. So in those instances, I think you need to be honest with yourself. I think there's still quite a long way for us to go. But in those instances, if you don't help, who will? So it all is personal, if we're being honest. It's very personal as to how far you can push yourself in an expectant situation where your family is expecting you to contribute. Are you able to have the conversation, yes or no? If you're not able to have the conversation, then you're obligated because you're not managing those expectations properly. So your responsibility to manage expectations as a person that earns income, as your financial health is still your financial responsibility, lies all with you.
Would it be wise for me to say that the easier conclusion to reach is that there's a little bit of responsibility that I can assume and I owe an answer to, an explanation to my immediate nuclear family, and those beyond not? Or is it a thing of, by virtue of you know, you hear the things that your first salary, you know, it's beyond your nuclear family. Would it be right for me to say that?
No, not necessarily. I think it's not right to assume that you are obviously obligated to black tax. I think that's what we need to make people aware of. That's what we need to also be aware of as a sandwich generation, to say that this is not really a thing that you can't get out of. It needs to be there to be said that times are different, times have changed, and times are tough. So in this particular economy that we are in this incredibly horrible inflation that we are experiencing, your financial health is your first priority. You know, your financial health is your first priority, and everybody else outside of yourself is then obligated to understand that. In situations where it's not understandable, obviously you need to then have a conversation. And umuntu ngabantu, it's a thing, it's a term that we use quite a lot to get away with a lot as well. So I think we need to be self-aware whenever it comes to money, to not use the term loosely. Because when it comes to money, it's very, very different. Because another thing is the money that you're giving out as black tax, those people outside of yourself, are they able to then do the same for you if things changed? No. So then you need to also devise plans and, I don't know, whatever else that you can in place to try maybe also empower those people. You know, instead of just continuously giving money out, when we are in such uncertain times.
I love what you're saying that. I think it reminds me of our actual tax man, where you actually pay your tax and there's a point where it pays you back. And being able to empower them that they can be able to be there for you as well.
And it pays you back when you invest. When you invest in yourself, when you do things that benefit yourself, then it pays you back.
Charlotte, thank you so much for your time this morning and making it easier for me to understand black tax, but also helping family members that are on the receiving end maybe not realize that they are incurring this on someone else, how they have a responsibility to play as well. That is Charlotte joining us this morning to give us a breakdown of all things relating to black tax and giving us the courage to be able to say, no, I can't. I need to plan for it. And more importantly, let me empower you so that you can be able to do it for yourself. That is financial accountant Charlotte Cindi joining us for this conversation.